Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this week's episode. I'm going to talk about mining your business, mining your own business. Yeah, just a little bit on the Bitcoin mining business stuff. And then, also don't be dependent on NGU, which is number go up technology. And then also want to talk to you a little bit about last night I heard Magoo on a Twitter Spaces, if you guys know Hodl Magoo, um, talking about the businesses and like the fragility of businesses. I don't even think he was necessarily talking about the fragility of businesses, but made me think of something that I wanted to talk about. And then also some Bitcoin movie news. Update you on all of that stuff and stuff that we have going on at Movies Plus, which you should subscribe and sign up to get a year for $24. It's $2 a month. Use the promo code Cory, Cory. I keep seeing those promo codes fly off the shelves, so don't be the last listener to use it. Yeah, promo code Cory, Cory, and you will get yourself a nice little subscription and support a company that supports me and supports the mission that we're going for, which is to free speech, voices, every voice out there. Um, give every voice an equal opportunity, and that's what we're going for. So, on top of that, apologies, I just random cough. And again, like I mentioned, I don't have a cough button. If I was in a professional radio station, I would have the button that you could hit, and then nobody would hear me going. um, anyways, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a MacBook that is older than my kids, and some the world's finest microphone that you can get on Amazon from China for very cheap. Um, anyways, oh, and then also thanks to the Bitbox O2 hardware wallet from Shift Crypto. Go to shiftcrypto.ch/Bitcoin Made Simple and use the promo code Bitcoin Made Simple to get 5% off your order and get yourself some hardware wallets. Get a hardware wallet to start, but you could also get like a steel plate there, and get your coins off the exchange, because I'm week in and week out baffled by the people that apparently don't know how to control that or do that at all. Like there's people that have been in this industry forever, and they'll like slip up, or not maybe slip up, just they'll actually say it. They'll come out and be like, you know, oh, I lost X number of Bitcoin, blah blah blah, and you're like, what? How? Why? What? Um, so yeah, I guess if you are somebody that's custodying your own coins, then you're probably in the let's say top 5 percentile of Bitcoiners. I got to be completely honest. I mean the market share like that there is for these wallet companies to grab is massive. I'm saying 5%, 5 percentile, and that's probably generous. It's probably like the top 1 percentile. Um, because like there's a statistic. I could be wrong. I think if you with golf, okay, so if you're a golfer and par is 72, on the pro tour, they shoot a couple under, uh on their massive course, huge courses, they're much tougher. But if you are a like really, really good golfer, then you can, play close to par. Um, but most people, if you go out and go golfing and you've never gone, you're probably going to shoot like 140 on 18 holes. Um, you know, if you golf every once in a while or at business things only and you don't like completely humiliate yourself, you're probably going to hit like 110 to 120. But if you hit, I believe it's under 100, then you're in the top 1 percentile of golfers in the world. Um, so, you know, it, with Bitcoiners, if you custody your own coins, I'm willing to say until someone can prove me otherwise that you're in the top 1 percentile of Bitcoiners, because shockingly, there are tons of people that do not custody their coins. Um, and they pay the consequences for it. So, all right. And also shout out to Upstream Data. go to upstreamdata.ca and check out their black box and all their mining equipment, because their black box is a lifesaver. It is amazing, and it makes that miner really, really quiet, not noticeable to anyone in the house. That's wonderful. So thanks to them. And yeah, so to get into just one more thing to touch on, the I'm not like trying to like beat up on anyone in particular. So if you are thinking that I'm talking about a specific person in this space not custodying their coins, there's not one particular one. It's just like I've seen over and over again, like people where they're like, like you think they're, you're like, oh, the person's like a hardcore Bitcoiner. And then like all of a sudden, I don't know, like a year later, and they'll like come out and just be like, oh yeah, everything I have is like, GBTC, and you're like, what? Um, and they hold paper Bitcoin, and then, and then there's the one like, so those are like, that's the obvious one. But then there's, also the whatchamacallit, the people that, you know, they don't say anything, but they probably have it on an exchange somewhere, sitting there and not actually moving it into a wallet. And that, my friends, is dangerous. And do not do that. So, but like I think there's a lot of people. I mean, not to bring him up in particular, but we saw, Luke Dash Jr., the Bitcoin core developer. So he's a Bitcoin core developer and apparently doesn't custody his own keys or coins. Sorry, Bitcoin pup. Um, Yikes! Like, holy crap. That that honestly worries me so much more than anything else in Bitcoin. The fact that a core dev is not custodying their coins, it's like, what kind of attack vector are we leaving open here that like apparently nobody is comfortable with custodying their own coins? And I promise you, this is not like Bitbox did not reach out and say, hey, we'll, throw you some extra shekels if you do a long discussion about custody. That's not what this is. But you should get a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet from Shift Crypto. Go shiftcrypto.ch/Bitcoin made simple. Use promo code Bitcoin made simple to get 5% off. That was improv, and it all came out in one breath. Just halfway through, I wanted to see if I could do it. So, yeah, it just is like alarming to me that like how many people aren't custodying their coins, and how much trouble could we be in if that leads to massive capture. Let's just say, hypothetically, let's say 10% of Bitcoiners, this is a big stretch. Let's say 10% of people that have bought Bitcoin in their life have it on a wallet. The other 90% is at risk to be captured at any moment, whether that's from the state or from people that are doing nefarious things, whatever it may be. That's huge risk, huge risk. And so you're everyone's a Bitcoiner. Hey, separate money from state, but keep my money in the Coinbase account because Coinbase. I mean, they're a private company, and I know that they like really tried to crap on Bitcoin and get rid of Bitcoin, and tried to convince everybody to go away from Bitcoin and use Bcash and other things. But I mean, they're a really strong company, and I don't think that they're going to do anything wrong. So I'll just keep my Bitcoin there. Not making fun of you if you do that. I did that for a long time, embarrassingly long. Um, and I'm here to tell you that you got to get them off, no matter where you buy it. I mean, then you have Swan, who's from all accounts a great Bitcoin company. I'm not involved with Swan. I don't know their inner workings, but I'm just telling you from everything I know. And Cory Clipston, what up, Cory? Team Cory. He is a good dude. We've talked before on this show and other times outside of it. Um, and yeah, always willing to help. And so I truly believe Swan is good, but you shouldn't keep your keys there and or your coins there. And they don't want you to either. They're pretty open about it. Like, hey, get it and get it out of here. Take it. So yeah, I don't know. that's been weighing on my mind a lot ever since I saw Luke Dash Jr. have his Bitcoin stolen, and finding out that a core dev does not have his coins on a cold storage wallet. I'm like, man, we have a long way to go. Like we have, because like he even tried telling someone like that it wasn't a hot wallet, it was a cold wallet, but it was a hot wallet. It was not a cold wallet. And it's just like, oh my God, like I we're so much further behind than I thought we were. And um, there's a lot of people that have a lot of Bitcoin in very, very dangerous situations. So, you don't trust the banks, you don't trust the government or whatever, but all of a sudden, yeah, Coinbase, they're gonna do the right thing. I have faith in Brian Armstrong, bulbous head Brian Armstrong. Um, and I just get them off, get them off, get them off, get them off. Um, so, anyways, that's my soapbox. I'm putting my soapbox away and putting it under my desk, and now I am moving on. Mind your business. Mind your business. So I've mentioned before, I was talking about like trying to use the energy underneath my feet and my own property to mine. And I'm still, exploring that. I mean, to drill a shallow natural gas well, it's probably gonna be pretty expensive. Um, not gonna be cheap, but in the long run, having your own energy is pretty sweet. Um, but then, I've been like looking around. I have some oil and gas people in the area searching around trying to find land that could be places that might have more gas. And I mean, not that I don't want to have gas here on my property, but I also like don't necessarily want to have like a loud generator running next to my house. So I'm sure there's ways we can muffle it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, as far as mining operation goes, I'm like, hey, if there's a plot of land and it's going to cost X, and we got to drill and set up the well, and that's going to cost X, and we get some hash huts from upstream data, and we get all these different things. I mean, there's significant capital investment up front, but with the promise of Bitcoin with no energy cost on the back end, it's pretty sweet. So looking into that, but then at a family get together over the weekend, um, I was talking to my wife's uncle, um, who has they have an 80 some odd acre buffalo farm. Um, and I was I had asked him about what it costs to drill a well because I know like his kids, um, most of them live on that property. Like, they've, you know, divvied up some parcels of it so that I think two out of his three kids have built or are building a house somewhere within the 80 acres, which is pretty awesome, homestead level living. Um, and I'm not jealous at all. I mean, I'm kind of doing that now, but, my kids are little, so they're here now, but it would be pretty awesome. And my son has talked about the oldest who's had the time to think about it has talked about, I'm going to build a house, which every kid when they're young, oh, I'm going to live with mommy and daddy forever. But uh, I I'm not complaining if they want to move on the homestead and build their own house, welcome to it. So, anyways, the the they have tapped into the natural gas that my wife's uncle has been tapped into this whole time, and they get natural gas for free. All their appliances run off of it. Um, so I was talking to him, asking about it, and now he told me, he said they didn't, the wells were there when they moved there 30 years ago or whatever it was. Um, and he has some kind of agreement with the people. I guess they're they're maintainers, or I forget what they're called exactly. Um, and they, are the ones that maintain the well and get the gas out, and you basically probably sell it to the companies. Um, but he gets to use, some kind of an agreement where he's like, I get to use a certain number of MCF, and that MCF, if I don't go over it, then I don't have to pay anything for the gas. And that gas, like he said, in the 30 years they've been there, never got over. Now they have three houses tapped into it, still not going over. Um, so yeah, I was talking to him about it, and I was like, man, that would be great. Like that's so cool. I'm so jealous. And so he said, I don't know how much it costs to, drill, but that's yeah. He's like, if I can ask, and I said, okay. So then I started, I was telling him what I wanted to do and whatever. And like an hour later, he comes back over and he goes, hey, so I was thinking about your idea. What if, you wanted to set something up like that in a place where somebody already had the gas going? And I was like, listening. um, I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought to myself, if I had his property, that's what I'd be doing. But I'm not. Well, first of all, I don't like to get family involved with business too much because, it just causes potential stress that you don't need. But I'm also not like, I guess I'm a stubborn do it yourself type person. So I don't really want to, I'm not going to walk up to him and be like, hey, I heard you have natural gas. Can I plop some things down on your property and, have these machines run so I can make money off of it? No, I'm not going to do that. So to be honest, and I mean, he's a Buffalo farmer. I didn't think he'd be even remotely interested in Bitcoin. That's why I didn't even talk about Bitcoin. I was talking about just the natural gas. Um, but anyways, so I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, asked how it works. I said, yeah, I need like a generator and, like probably need, capital contribution from somebody, investors I know that would be interested. But, um, it's like it could be done. So basically he was like, yeah, I'd be interested. Um, but I have to talk to the person that like owns the actual well. Um, and in that scenario, might have to pay the equivalent of a couple cents per kilowatt. Um, but that's still great. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Also, we'll have to build a shelter around the hash huts because I don't think the buffalo would enjoy having a bunch of computers going right in their ears. They might get a little aggressive with those. So yeah, I don't know. That's the next the new phase or the I don't want to say the next step because it's not like I moved beyond the other steps. It's just I guess another added layer to my Bitcoin mining journey. Um, and yeah, we'll see. I don't know, but I told you guys I'd let you know what's going on in that space. And I mean, I saw with the price going up, I think the hash price is around 8.5 cents. So I mean, it's going in the right direction. Um, but I also I've tweeted about this a couple times, but don't be dependent on the number go up technology. And just say that it's not saying any of you in particular, but it's been a little evident that a lot of people are still too dependent on the number go up technology. And to be completely honest with you, I was until last spring. And I realized the fault in my ways. I realized I was so wrong. And why would I ever do that? No, actually, it was the conversation with Hoddle Magoo that you should check out. I don't know what BMS episode that is, but go back and look. I think it was April of 2022. Um, the realization that, like you got to take a long look in the mirror. And that's what I had to do after I had that conversation with him. I was like, are you dependent, like looking at myself, like, are you depending too much on this number go up technology? And I realized I was. Um, and then Phil even helped me realize that I was like kind of over leveraged. I wasn't, leveraged like wasn't taking out loans or um, you know, like mortgaging, taking out a second mortgage or anything like that so that I could uh buy Bitcoin with it. But it was a little too out over my skis. Um, and I didn't tell Phil what my stack situation was, but he was like, Phil, it was like around 30K. Phil was like, probably going to go down. Like there's a good chance. I mean, Powell's not stopping anytime soon. Rates are going to keep going up. Risk assets are going to keep taking a hit. Um, so, don't buy more than you can afford to lose. And all that kind of stuff, is morphed me into where. So, anyways, I'm just trying to warn other people, don't be dependent on number go up technology, because that is a really bad way to plan your financial future. Save in Bitcoin. Again, buy Bitcoin with money that you don't need, that you can go without touching for 4 years. And, you know, increase your cash flows. That's what you need to be looking at. There's that Reddit or whatever where people are overemployed and they're working like 4 jobs from home. I'm not recommending doing that, but that's one way to increase your cash flows. But yeah, 2 jobs, whatever it may be. Yeah, I don't know, whatever you can do. Um, you also have to live your life. So I'm not saying, spend 16 hours a day slaving away just to, stack Bitcoin. But also, trim your budget, pull back on your spending. Every time dollar, with time. Sorry, I'm gonna yawn into the microphone because that came out of nowhere, and I don't feel like cutting it out later, and I don't have a cough button. Um, but there've been times where, let's just say, it'd be easier to buy dinner than it would be for my wife or I to make dinner, which, to be completely honest, my wife cooks 99.9% of the time. So let's just say there might be a day where it's like, you know, let's it's easier. Let's buy something. Um, but then she's like, we got something. We can throw something together. And this is where I occasionally learn how to cook. Beyond the spaghetti. I mean, it involves me asking her a lot of questions, which I'm sure is really relaxing for her. Which, if I say I'll cook, but by the way, do you mind sitting close by within earshot so that I can ask you a question every 2 minutes? Um, so, anyways, yes, there have been times like that where I'm like, you know what, we potentially just saved $40 by staying in. So that's $40 in Bitcoin I'm going to buy. Just random stuff like that. But you know, don't get yourself so NGU number go up, desperate. Like I said, increase your cash flows, and uh, then you can increase your stacking, and just keep your head down. And I, I'm telling you, like I'm not making price predictions, anything like that. Let's say you're in your 20s, even in your 30s, hell, even if you're in your 40s, if you're in your 50s, your time preference may be a little different because you're like, I'm 10 years away from retiring potentially. Um, oh no, even then, you're good. But if you're in your 60s, if you're like retiring, then I don't know, your time preference is a little different. Um, if you're in retirement but like looking to have ways to leave something beyond your life, then maybe it's a good way to stack. I don't know. But anyways, so say you're like me in your 30s and you just put your head down and you work hard to make a good living and just keep setting money aside, keep setting money aside. I bet you in 10 years, you're going to pick your head up and go, holy crap, did I do something incredible? Um, I'm not saying it's going to take 10 years. I'm just saying, to lower your time preference, just work and, build, build good things, build for the future, and find a way to preserve your wealth in Bitcoin. And you'll be shocked at where it takes you. Um, so, God, if you're in your 20s, you've got the world is your oyster. Not to sound like an old fuddy duddy, but um, it really is. And I am 36, and oh God, I mean, if at 26 I had started my Bitcoin journey, and well, I guess it started then, but if I had started stacking then, my life would be much different right now. I think the price of Bitcoin 10 years ago was maybe like $1,000. So it was not a fringe thing. It was somewhat mainstream. I mean, mainstream enough that like articles and all that kind of stuff. It was beyond the Bitcoin talk forum. Um, yeah, if I had, I spent the last 10 years working hard anyways and saving up cash and all that kind of stuff. And if I had just been stacking Bitcoin that whole time, my oh my, it would be a much different world that I'm in right now. Um, so, I'm just saying, don't be dependent on NGU. Just stack what you can and keep your focus on what you can do to provide for yourself and increase your cash flows. Before I get to the next thing, just another reminder to get your coins off the exchange with the BitBox02 hardware wallet from Shift Crypto. Shiftcrypto.ch/ Bitcoin Made Simple and use the promo code Bitcoin Made Simple to get 5% off. Um, I like how the show's called Bitcoin Made Simple, and like I do the opposite of that. I don't understand it nearly as well as I'd like to, and nowhere near where many people do. Originally, I guess that was because I was interviewing people, but I tweeted this out recently after with my last episode. I was like, if there's someone I want to interview, then I'll interview them. And I'm not saying that people that I interviewed in the past were people I didn't want to interview. I've always wanted to interview anyone that I interviewed, but um, if you notice, I've done so many solo episodes because I'm like, I just don't like. There's, I don't want to bring on people that have been on other pods and ask them the same questions that you've heard on other pods and regurgitate the same information on other pods. So it's like, what can I do, to make this podcast worth your while and uh get anything out of it? Because if I'm just delivering the same podcast that everyone else is delivering, then you know I'm effectively bringing no worth to this space, no value to this space. Um, so and like you have the people like Daniel Prince who's just doing interview after interview and crushing it. And Peter McCormack, you know, has obviously tons of interviews, and Preston is doing them, and if Phil and Luke in this in this podcast network here doing it. So there's just so many, and yeah, I unless something really like catches my attention, I was like, I'm just gonna be a pleb talking to plebs about Bitcoin and what I'm going through. And I hope it helps. Um, because this is kind of a lonely journey. We have each other, but you might be sitting there thinking, am I the only one thinking these things? And maybe you hear my smooth brain talk about it and go, you know what? I'm not the only one. So it's like it's almost like I'm broadcasting a signal over pirate radio out into the ether, and just it's the zombie apocalypse, it's the Walking Dead, and I'm sending out that radio signal to let everyone know that hey, there's still someone else out here. um and it's not the usual suspects. So anyways, oh, so Magoo in his space was talking about business. Oh, he wasn't specifically talking about the businesses being fragile per se, but um, I mean, he was talking about Swan, and he had Terrence on there, and he was, really giving Terrence a hard time, which, is come to expect at this point. It's always fun. Um, but he was talking about he was taking guesses at like what Swan's burn rate is, all those kinds of things. I think because Swan may or may not be considering going public. I don't know. And I'm not going to get into numbers. I'm not going to speculate on how they're doing because I think they're doing well. But I will tell you that, um, you know, a lot of businesses, like you look around at, all the businesses that are out there, and to the average person, like you're like, oh, I mean, like look at them, they're set, they're ready to go. Like you guys might look at Movies Plus and be like Cory is set. I'm not. Um, and Swan is another one where you'd be like, man, Corey Clipston and Swan, like they're just crushing it, which they are. Um, but it's like, oh, they're set. And that's not really ever the case with business. Um, you're always not too far away from being out of business, which is incredibly stressful and hard on the entrepreneur life. Um, but you know, so yeah, it's just you don't really know what the fragility of different businesses is at the moment, or what it's going to be. But like, I can tell you guys with Movies Plus is so fragile that we could have been out of business multiple times in the last 2 years. Um, and we kept getting saved by the skin of our teeth. Um, Partly because I mean, I've put my life savings into this, so either I'm an idiot or that was a good decision. I think it was a good decision, but maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. And if you stand for something and you believe in something, then and you don't take the risk, then you'll always be wondering, what if, what if, what if, what if. So, um, yeah. I mean, there's so many sacrifices being made for businesses to keep the lights on, keep the employees in, and keep it going. And like, if the money dries up all of a sudden, how long of a runway does the average company have? Probably not very far. You know, Businesses are so dependent on cash flow. It's not all dependent on cash flow, but most businesses aren't Apple sitting there on this stockpile of billion, 50 billion in cash or whatever they have. Um, so, it is cash flow dependent. Even, when companies go public, basically a fundraising effort to raise funds and increase the amount of capital they have to work with without having to give up much power, because you're not getting people buying controlling interest as a private investor. Um, so even in that scenario, it's like you got to, like, the cash flows have to keep increasing. Like, just because you became flush with cash through an IPO or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that like you just take that money home, and like, hey, like, line your pocket. No, that was fun. I'm out. No, like, that capital is there to, invest. I mean, a good example is like Pixar. Pixar went public, perfect and genius timing. Went public, I think like the Monday or Tuesday after Toy Story came out. So Toy Story comes out, crushes it at the box office. Pixar goes public, crushes it at their IPO. And Steve Jobs obviously was the one behind that, pulling the strings there to make that happen. But um, then what did they have to do? They had to take that capital and expand the team so that they can increase revenues. Um, and yeah, gets tiring from time to time. I can tell you there are some times that, like, at the end of the day, I sit down with my wife and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing? I'm like, it feels like you're smacking your head against a brick wall. And I was like, am I doing something? Am I being an idiot? I think that's another question that's constantly popping up in my head and maybe other entrepreneurs' heads. Like, am I being the stupidest person alive? And I'm constantly taking a step back and going, like, if I were someone else and I was observing my current situation, would I be looking at going like, what the hell is he doing? Like, how stupid is he for doing this? Um, and if the answer is yes, then I would probably make a change. So far, the answer has not been yes. Retroactively, looking back on some decisions I've made in the 8 years that I've been on my own, yeah, there are times I'm like, God, that, I mean, so many times so many lessons learned over those 8 years, um, and mistakes that I'll never make again, and times that we were really on the brink. But yeah, I mean, I guess my message to you guys is that you never know the fragility of businesses. Even like a company like Target. Target makes so much money, blah blah blah. Like their margins are so razor thin between, so it's like if you accidentally had something in your basket and you didn't pay for it, you're like, ah, what the heck? It's just a $10 item from Target. They're not gonna care. They're killing it. They don't, whatever. Uh, that's not really true because, like I said, they're so razor thin. So like, if it only happened one time in the whole country, sure, Target would be fine. But just extrapolate that across all their locations and the times that it would accidentally, like truly accidentally happen. I mean, I can't even, but I do remember one time there was a toothbrush that I got home from not Target, but somewhere else. And I was like, I don't know if I paid for this. And I looked at the receipt and I was like, yeah, crap. I didn't. I didn't put it in there. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it was in there already. I have no idea. Maybe one of my kids grabbed it and threw it in whenever I wasn't looking. God only knows. But it was a toothbrush and it was like 99 cents. But then you still look at it, you're like, that happens in aggregate across all these, locations. That can hurt. That can cause people to lose jobs. That can, cause problems. So, um, yeah, the point behind the razor thin razor's edge that businesses sit on is that, like, I'm here to tell you guys with Movies Plus, we're doing good, but good is relative. Um, you know, like we're cash flow positive, but we need to be cash flow positive for um because let's just say we're in like a position where it's like, oh hey, you know, a certain couple things could be taken care of with our current cash flow. But if we don't, like, if I put all the capital that comes in, if I put all the revenue towards that, you know, being things like my salary and other people, like being able to bring on other staff and whatnot, if I put the money towards that, solely that, then Movies Plus isn't going to grow because you have to market, you have to grow, you have to put money into marketing to keep things going and keep the relevance going. And so you can't do that. It's not like, oh man, let's just say, like, we're bringing an X number of dollars, which is, you know, the same amount of our, overhead plus my salary and someone else's salary. Man, we're good to go. No, you're not, because if you just focus on your salaries, which, I was guilty of in the past before Movies Plus. I was just so focused on like getting my salary, and it's probably prevented me from growing a little bit further. But then also at the same time, like push comes to shove, ladies and gentlemen, and like, so you're always on razor's edge, and that goes for like the personal finances. It's like Movies Plus. I envision that Movies Plus will be around forever. I envision it's the next big thing to take on Netflix and the big guys, and really revamp and revitalize the independent spirit of Hollywood. Um, but at the same time, if a couple catastrophic things happen, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm 6 months away from working somewhere. I don't know. Like I have no idea. Like that's the delicate balance that you're like dancing on, especially whenever you're, my situation, putting your personal money in and at risk. You're just constantly dancing. And so it's a tough. I don't know. I'm just asking you guys to, I guess, commiserate with me because, um, you know, when I talk to my wife about these things, like, oh my God, just the uncertainty and like the constant fluctuation gets exhausting. And, if you The example I could make would be like, you have, people work at a job, and most people, especially back in the day, but I guess less so now, but people get a job and they essentially stay there for life, maybe change a couple times throughout their professional career, depending on the field that they're in. Um, but like people very rarely get in overall, I'm saying is people very rarely get like fired or laid off. Um, it doesn't happen like, it doesn't, somebody doesn't retire and go like, God, I was fired like 15 times, or like I was laid off 15 times. It just doesn't happen. Like, but um, so that's why, you know, regular people in regular jobs are just that cash flow is expected to be there month after month. Um, and so I complain, I guess, to my wife, and complain about what it's like to be an entrepreneur because, like, that cash flow doesn't come out of thin air like it does whenever you work at a job. You work at whatever job. If it's, the bigger company, the more it seems that it comes out of thin air. But you know, when you're an entrepreneur, and I know some of you are, so you guys can commiserate with me. I mean, it is like a constant fear of going out of business, a constant threat that like you're 3, 4, 5, 6 months away from being done and having, just basically having to get a job or whatever. So it's a constant thing. Whereas, like, if you work at a regular job, you just have your cash flow, it comes and goes. And all of a sudden, one day it happens 2 times maybe in your entire professional life. All of a sudden, it comes to a screeching halt and you get fired or laid off or the company goes out of business, something like that. And that's why that's such a devastating moment for people because, like, it is such a nice comfort level to live in that, like, that comfort of, like, hey, like my cash flow is good. I bring in a little bit more than I, spend and, put a little bit away every month, blah, blah, blah. Um, and yeah, when you're an entrepreneur, I guess my point is that I keep stressing to my wife is that it's like a day in and day out, you're living in the scenario that someone who is just lost their job. You're constantly going through that. You're constantly looking at how far of a runway do I have? Because and you get fired or something, you're like, oh, I got, yeah, I saved up. I got like 6 months of runway. So that should be good. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's good, but like, holy crap, you only 6 months of runway. Um, and you'll get a job before then and you'll be fine. And, then your runway then in your mind is in perpetuity because your cash flow is in your mind in perpetuity. Um, so yeah, that's just to let you guys know that I'm dancing here, and this has got to kick it up to the next level. Like, really, it's got to kick it up. Like, we're doing well. We're at an all-time high in subscribers for Movies Plus, so it's like I shouldn't be complaining in a sense. But honestly, in the next 6 months, I need to probably 3x our subscribers, like multiply it by three. I need to, in the next 3 months, probably double them, for us to be in a position to be doing what, to keep growing. Like, because otherwise it'll just be something that sits on the withers on the vine and dies. So it's something that we gotta 2x 3x here in a short period of time. And I appreciate all of you that have supported us, because it goes a long way towards helping us achieve what the vision is that I've set out for, freedom of speech for all, and creating a good platform with good content that doesn't have an agenda. So, anyways, that being said, use promo code Cory to get $6 off and get your annual subscription for $24. Go to mymoviesplus.com, promo code Cory. Um, So, anyways, and I appreciate all of you guys listening as always. And I rambled on longer than usual today. But yeah, I was just sharing my thoughts with you and, just stack sats, keep stacking, staying humble, and increasing your cash flow and increasing your stack. Keep your head down, and everything will be fine. So appreciate you guys, and also check out the Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. And I appreciate Shift Crypto for being a sponsor of the show. I will talk to you guys later.